You can find a lot of Tommy Robinson's followers or the followers of Nigel Farage asserting that all problems are in the British society because of immigrants. But the question is, were there any immigrants in 19 and uh, 17th century in the UK, especially in the 19th century? And was everything hunky dory? Was there no problem at all? In reality, during the 19th century, when the presence of immigrant was almost non-existent or very little or completely insignificant, white working class was working for more than 10 or 12 hours a day. They were condemned to work in horrible working conditions. Even pregnant women have to work, and sometimes they would simply faint and collapse. Kids as old as 12 years or 13 years were also condemned to work. This is what Marx also said in one of his writings, that they say the communist would destroy families. And then he posed a counter question, that you have already destroyed the families of working class, dragging male, female, kids, everyone to factories. So at the time when the ruling elite of the UK was plundering colonies, exploiting colonized people, oppressing them, extracting natural resources from there, bringing it from periphery to cosmopolitan or metropolitan, Charles Dickens was writing David Copperfield. So the far right is just trying to hoodwink people by saying that everything would be hunky dory once immigrants are not there. History tells us, when there were no immigrants, the white working class were still leading a miserable life. They were living in slums. The housing was terrible. The social welfare infrastructure was almost non existent. So it is only the effort, the attempt of the far right to, in a way, hide the real class issue that is being faced by the working class of the British society. Another point is, imagine if there is a government tomorrow that raises uh, hourly wage from £13 to, let's say, £40. Now, what would be the reaction of Rishi Sunak, Hinduja brothers, and Lakshmi Mittal, who are Hindu capitalists? What would be the reaction of Muslim capitalists like Lord Ali, Sir Anwar Parvez, and maybe the owner of Harrod? What would be the reaction of Goldsmith family and other Jewish capitalist family? And what would be the reaction of people like David Cameron, Boris Johnson, and other from upper class or capitalist class? The working class, whether it is from Ireland or Scotland or England or Wales, they might be euphoric. The working class people from Caribbean, from India, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from Middle East, they might be jubilant. They might be celebrating it. But on the other hand, the capitalists, no matter they are Hindus, Muslim, Christian, Zoroastrian, Jewish, they would plunge into coma. Let me give you another example to illustrate this class issue. Look at the uh, you know, fee schedule or the fee list of Eton College and other elitist school. Eton used to charge more than £40,000 a year. Now, reportedly, it has been risen, with some critics saying that it is charging more than £60,000 now. So, Eton and 10 more elitist schools that have been charging exorbitant amount of fee with everyone, each of them at least charging more than 20,000 or 30,000 or 40,000. In case of Eton College, more than 45,000. So in that prestigious school, admission could be offered to children of Lord Ely, Sir Anwar Parvez, maybe the honor of Herod, who are Muslim capitalists. Admission could also be offered to Goldsmith's family, who may be Jewish capitalists, those of Boris Johnson and David Cameron and other rich guys, including Nigel Farage, who are from upper strata of the British society. Also, the families of Lakshmi Mittal, Hinduja brothers, and Rishi Sonak can also afford to send their kids to these elitist schools. But a white working class man living very close to, let's say, Eton College or other prestigious college, his kids, his children cannot even imagine of entering or touching the walls of that school, let alone taking admission. So clearly, it's a class issue. But the far right, Nigel Farage, would not tell you about this. In the same way, when they talk about housing and the problems of people, they do not tell you that 30% of England's land mass is owned by aristocrats, 18% by corporation, 17% by private banks, and only 5% by ordinary British people, and 7%, 7 to 8% by the government. In the same way, when they talk about rental properties and the rising rents, they never tell you that 12,000 rental properties are owned by just one British company. More than 4,000 rental properties are owned by just one private bank. The irony is that from Nigel Farage to Tommy Robinson, Margaret Thatcher is their icon. But she was the one who supported Afghan fundamentalists in the name of Afghan jihad and Ronald Reagan. You could still see her footage addressing Afghan refugees in Peshawar, and you could see Reagan receiving these fundamentalists, some of whom were accused of attempting to throw acid towards women who were not fully covered, who did not cover their face in Kabul University or some educational institution of Kabul. So people having such ideology were greeted by Reagan. And interestingly, Reagan is the icon of Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, and Margaret Thatcher is icon of all far right. Another important problem of the British society and Western society in general, and British society in particular, is drugs. Again, it was Afghan jihad that made it easy for anyone to access drugs, not only in the UK, all over the world. And of course, American ruling elite, the British ruling elite must have been aware of this. The third thing, deindustrialization in the UK and the United States. Again, it was Margaret Thatcher who opened up the market to a great extent. Of course, there was some opening of the market before them, but she introduced ruthless capitalism, allowing capital flight with many companies owners or factories owner shifting their manufacturing units to the countries like China, India, maybe Bangladesh, Vietnam, where they could find more profit. Now, I pose you a very simple question. If you are a white capitalist, if you can make, if you can make, workers work for 8 hours in India, paying them hardly maybe 100 and 200 pound, why would you want to do the same thing in England, where you might have to pay 2,000 or 3,000 pound life insurance, health insurance. You have to face trade unions and all that. So at the end of the day, it is only class issue. But these far right activists, Nigel Farage and other people, they do not want to talk about that. I can give you one more example. Recently, Nationwide decided to shut down some of its offices and switch jobs to some other countries, probably India. 4,000, more than 4,000 workers are going to lose their jobs. An overwhelming majority of these employees is from, white British class. Not a single word would you hear from Tommy Robinson. Not a single word would you hear from Nigel Farage. Why can't they protest against those British company that shift industries, render white working class jobless? They would never do it because in reality, they are the agents of the capitalists, no matter what is their color, caste, and creed. In the same way, when it comes to grooming gang, which is of course condemnable, and every man with a modicum of consciousness would demand that those who are involved, they should be punished, uh, under the law of the country. But you have never heard even a single word from Nigel Farage, from Tommy Robinson against Jeffrey Epstein, who was accused of exploiting hundreds of underage girls. Again, most of them were white. And Glenn Maxwell. So these white grooming these gangsters who are white, they are not mentioned. As if the girls who were oppressed by these people, Glenn Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and of course, so many white capitalists or capitalists from different ethnic background, not a single word will you hear from Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage. And if you have heard, please share in the description or in the comments.